Hey, Kevin Thompson, I got a question for you. Would you define yourself as better at giving than you are at receiving? And I'll tell you, for the longest time, I've felt this way, and I wanted to spend a few minutes talking with you about this because I've made some big discoveries, and of course, I'm getting far better at receiving than I used to be. And I want to tell you a couple of stories because I think you're really going to connect with this. And so, I have been in business for myself since 1997, and I first met my introduction to direct response marketing was back when I owned a carpet cleaning business. It was this guy Joe Polish, and there's been so much water under the bridge since then. I mean, I long ago sold that carpet cleaning business thanks to Joe teaching me good marketing, and Joe and I have become really good friends over the years. And back in, I think it was 2008, he started this group called the Genius Network Mastermind. And the second year that he started that group, I ended up joining that group. And and the way that I always felt inside the group, not such a bad thing, but I always felt that I was kind of like the low guy on the totem pole. Not a bad spot to be, especially if you're wanting to grow as an entrepreneur. But I always thought, because of the other people who were in Genius Network that were running these businesses that were just doing all these great things. I mean, for whatever reason, I looked at me as being here and all of them at being way up here. Okay. And I can remember about 3 years into being in that group, it was a couple days before one of Joe's going to have a Genius Network meeting at his office. And I'd actually called Joe on his cell phone, and I got his voicemail, and I thought, I ain't going to bother him. I'll just, so I hung up, and I'm like, I'm going to be down there at a Genius Network meeting in a couple days anyways. I'll just talk with him then. And he called me back a couple minutes later, and he's like, Kev, what the heck? You didn't leave a message. And I'm like, oh, Joe, I said, no big deal. I said, heck, I'm coming to 25K, coming to Genius Network in a couple of days. We can just talk then. And he's like, no. He's like, it must have been important enough for you to call. Let's talk now. And honestly, at this time in my life, many years later, I don't even remember what it was that I was calling for. But what I do remember is at the next meeting, at that Genius Network meeting, to kick it off that first day of that meeting, Joe starts sharing with everybody this experience of him, me calling him and not leaving a message because I didn't want to bother him. And he's like, Kevin, he's like, you know what? He's like, you are one of the most generous, giving, big-hearted people that I know, and yet you totally suck at receiving. And he's like, I want to see something by a show of hands in this room. He said, if Kevin were to pick up the phone and call any one of you, and assuming it was reasonable, was to ask you for a favor, would any one of you turn him down, or would any one of you not want to talk with him? And everybody in the room was like, oh my gosh, no, Kev, man, we love you. You can call us anytime you want. And like, yeah, that had an impact on me. But I still just kind of felt like, they say that, but I still, I definitely started getting better at asking for what I want, knowing that I'm a giving guy too, but it took a long time coming around. And it took some more experiences before I could start getting really a whole lot better at receiving. And like, honestly, to this day, I'm still working on it. And then I had another experience a couple of years later, where I had hosted this event here at my home in Washington State, and I had invited a handful. In fact, Joe Polish was here, Garrett Gunderson was here, Shannon Waller from Strategic Coach was here, Sean Stevenson and his dad were here. I mean, some great business people, some great marketers were here in my home for 2 days. There was actually 14 people here for that 2 days. And I shared some stuff with them that I was doing in my business and having great success with, and just really ended up connecting with everybody on just an absolutely amazing level. And after that 2-day experience, excuse me, I had gone out to dinner with a few of the folks, Joe and Sean in particular, and we were sitting at dinner that evening, and Sean was telling me how much he appreciated everything that I shared. He's like, Kevin, I got to tell you, when we came up here to Seattle, the day we landed in Seattle, it was pouring down rain, and my dad and I were heading up to your house, supposedly an hour away from the airport. and he's like, and with the weather and the traffic, it took us 2 hours to get up here to your place. And I'm asking my dad, he's like, now, who is this Kevin Thompson guy? And why are we going through all this to get to his house and hang out with him for a couple of days? And now, after spending a couple of days with you, Kevin, he's like, I got so much out of this. And you shared so freely and so openly. He's like, and my question for you is, what can I do to help you? And my response to Sean at the time was like, hey, Sean, no big deal. Heck, it was my pleasure, and like, you don't got to do anything for me. And he, in the most loving way he could, he told me, he's like, Kevin, that is the wrong freaking answer. Wrong answer. He's like, listen, he's like, you just gave us this incredible experience, and you shared so much of value with us over the last 2 days. He's like, I get it. If you don't got an answer for me right now, that's totally fine. But for crying out loud, let me know that. Let me know that you don't got an answer. Tell me, say, okay, Sean, I don't know right now how you can help me, but when I have a good answer, I'll let you know. He's like, at least do that. And so that was another experience to kind of let me know that, like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm still not opening myself up to receiving in the way that I could. But it always made me feel so good to give to others. And of course, everybody giving me all these accolades after that 2-day experience and talking with me about how much value they got from it and how much they appreciated it. Man, I love that. I loved that. And it wasn't until November of 2012 where I had the opportunity to spend some time with another gentleman who's now become really good friends with me, a gentleman by the name of Jesse Elder. And I had flown down to San Antonio. He was living in San Antonio at the time, and him and I spent some time together for a few days. And one of the things that we got to talking about, because once again, he's telling me, we had actually a couple weekends before we had been at a seminar together, and he had never been in that environment before and never been to that kind of a seminar before, and I was the only one he knew. And so he was having conversations with folks, and he was just kind of, because I was the tie-in, he's like, hey, I'm friends with Kevin Thompson. Everybody was telling him, he's like, Kevin Thompson? Oh man, Kevin Thompson's such a great guy, and this and that. And Jesse's telling me all this, and he's like, Kevin, he's like, you have no idea how much goodwill you have built up with people and how much relationship capital you have with people just because of you being who you are and being this giving person. And he's like, but yet, he's like, on the receiving end, he's like, you are so blocking the flow of so many incredible things that could be going on in your life. And so he's like, do you mind if I share a little bit with you? And I was like, well, yeah, by all means, do that. And he's like, here's the thing, Kevin, is like this idea of giving and receiving. He's like, it's like they're two different sides of the same coin. And he's like, you've got one side totally dialed in, but you really need to work on this other side of the coin, on this receiving side. He's like, and if I were to ask you, what do you prefer better, breathing in or breathing out? And you were actually responded and gave me an answer, I would tell you, fantastic. Try doing only that for a while and see how far it gets you. And we started digging into this more, and he's like, Kevin, he's like, let me ask you. He's like, when you give to others, he's like, how does that make you feel? And I was like, oh man, Jesse, it makes me feel incredible. I love giving to others. That feeling that it gives me, it feels so good. And he's like, do you realize that by not opening yourself up to receiving from others and letting them do for you, you are depriving them of that same feeling, of them having that feeling? And see, and that's a really selfish act on your part. And see, and I share all of this because, I look at what I've done in my own life and in my own business over the years. And I have built this incredibly successful business that, like, I am just like so blessed, and I'm surrounded by all these incredible people that I just love spending time with and hanging out with and love giving to. But for the longest time, I was shutting down the flow of all this good things that could be happening because I wasn't open to actively receiving from others and letting them give. I mean, like Jesse said, I was being completely selfish without even realizing it. And see, maybe you're in the same exact spot. And if you're a giver and you feel that, like, yeah, I love giving, but Kev, I can totally relate to what you're talking about. I can stand to get a little bit better at receiving. And if that's where you're at, I would love to have a conversation with you. I'd love to talk with you more about that because I'll tell you, once you open yourself up to this idea of becoming good at receiving too, amazing things start happening. And so what I'm going to challenge you to do is this. What I want you to do is I want you to take an inventory of the relationships in your life. This can be family, this can be friends, and when it comes to business, it can be your prospects, it can be your clients, it can be your employees, it can be your vendors, it can be business partners. And I want you to start, actually take out a pen and paper and start writing down the number of people that know you for doing what you do, that know you for being the person that you are. And if you really do this, you're going to find that list is pretty doggone big. And as you're making that list, ask yourself, am I really maximizing these relationships, or am I only doing this half as good as I could because I'm focused on the giving side, but I'm not focused on the receiving side? I have not been opening myself up to receiving. And when you do that, and I would love to hear from you. I'd love to have a conversation with you around that because that's, I'm being completely candid. This is a constant work in progress for me as well. And so I'm just going to challenge you to do that. And with that said, get back to me. Let me know your experience. And if you want to have a conversation around this, I'd love to do that. So, take that challenge, do that, and hopefully I'll get to hear from you. Bye for now.